Welcome back to When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name's Todd Sullivan, and with me as always is Oren Barter.
Hello.
And today we are continuing our journey through A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. So here we are, continuing on in 2021. This week has been slightly less stressful than the last week, I think. No attempted military coups that I'm aware of, so that's a plus, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
How are things? Oren?
Things are not too bad.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
How are you progressing on your New Year's? Was it New Year's goal or New Year's
attempt? The New Year's attempt. Yes. Yeah. So I have not exercised yet, but I have thought about it a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's a good first step.
And now we're talking about. First, you think about it,
right.
then you talk.
Then you talk about it. And that's.
It.
I mean, that's. I think in the same way that cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness. Thinkingness is next to actionness.
Yeah, next to doingness.
Yeah, exactly. So you're practically there already.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably just say attempt successful.
You might as well at that point, right?
Really. I mean, it's in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
How about you? How are you doing with yours? Have you been twittering?
I have a little bit earlier in the week, and I tweeted something today. But it's always, so this is part of the reason that I'm trying to do this, is that I think the more you tweet, the more people are likely to respond to your tweets. And so right now, because I've tweeted so little over the course of my time on Twitter, is I'm not getting any engagement. Nobody ever responds to anything I tweet. Maybe it's just that I'm not funny or interesting or anything.
No comment.
But that ends up working against the attempt, because of course, when you put something out there on social media, at least for me, I like to have people respond to it. Mm-hmm. And when, you put a tweet out, whether it's something, you're hopefully is thought provoking or funny, and it's like your joke dies, nobody laughs, you're in front of doing your stand-up routine, and it's just dead. It's like, okay, I'm just going to go home now. Bye.
I think it's probably a little bit easier to tweet something and not have a response than it is to stand on stage in front of a group of strangers and have nobody laugh at
for sure.
That you worked really hard on.
For sure. Hey, I worked really hard on that tweet. I spent 15 seconds thinking about it. So before we drift from our current futuristic landscape of 2021 to the imagined futuristic landscape that was conceived in 1962, let's do that. Take a moment to talk about what we're drinking right now, I guess.
All right, what are you drinking, Todd?
I'm back to my my Phillips Little Wonder low carb beers. I currently have the hazy IPA, which is quite nice.
Okay.
We got a sampler pack of those yesterday. So I think I've got this and one more hazy IPA left, and then I'll be going through the rest of the pack. How about you, sir?
I am drinking the Partake Stout non-alcoholic beer again.
Oh, nice. I think you've had that before.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm not on the wagon, I'm not off the wagon. I kind of just keep hopping off and on.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you feel like riding the wagon, and sometimes you're more like in the mood for
the
walking.
wagon's like, going at my speed. Sometimes I'm on it, sometimes I'm just like, I gotta stretch my legs.
So let's talk about the book, unless we've got any more preambles to do. I don't think we do.
Blah, blah, blah got their first Patreon.
Right. I was going to mention that at the end of the episode, because we do have to, he is at that level where we have to mention him in every episode now. So now that you've brought it up, let's talk about that. We got our very first patron on Patreon, and I want to send a big thank you to Frankie. I don't know if you listened to this one, because I know, Frankie, Carlo and I met you in the Discord for that other podcast, Half Cut Conspiracies, and we chatted with you a little bit in there about Russia, and how your favorite conspiracy, I believe, was Area 51, which is interesting timing because the following episode was going to be Area 51. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and thanks for supporting. We really appreciate it. We're already planning to use the money that you have provided to pick up the Moscow Mules that Carlo and I will be drinking live on January 22nd. So yeah, thanks for your support.
You're doing a live episode during the inauguration.
It'll be 2 days after the inauguration.
Oh, I thought it was on the 22nd. It's on the 20th then.
It's on the 20th, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it is about all of the election-related conspiracies, and also about hopefully what didn't happen that week. But there has been some discussion that things could get ugly on the 17th and on the 20th. Leading up to the inauguration, and so sort of talking about the whole mishmash mess that has been the 2020 election. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess by the time this comes out, you will still have time to go listen to that. So you can check that out at halfcutconspiracies.podbean.com. You can also, you'll want to go to podbean.com for sure. And to engage with us live, you will want to use the Podbean app on your phone, because you'll be able to join a chat room. You'll be able to call in if you want to. If you have participated in one of our live episodes, you already know how it goes. We've done a couple of them now, and another one coming 2 weeks from now when we wrap up. 3 weeks from now, probably, when we wrap up this. So yeah, and then we've also launched a website if you want to go check that out. It's blahblahblahmedia.com. You'll find all of our old episodes there, as well as on the front page. There are embedded players for both Half Cut Conspiracies and...
you forgot this one.
What is this one called?
You forgot
When Bad Things Happen to Good People.
Oh my God, Todd. It's like forgetting our anniversary. I don't know if I can forgive you for this.
So yeah, check it out. Brand new website, just up and running this week. Have you checked it out yet, Oren?
You're in the doghouse. I have not checked the website out, so maybe I'm in the doghouse.
I think
maybe
you might
be both in the doghouse. Let's just
we'll just hang out in the doghouse together and enjoy our beers.
I guess I'm back off the wagon.
All right, let's talk about this book. But first, another exciting episode of What the Fuck Is He Saying? Okay. I don't know if you wrote down any more words this week, but I have another bunch.
Oh yeah, I do have a few. Let's do it.
All right, we'll take turns. My first one is rot.
Rot. Yeah, what is that?
It's mouth.
Mouth. Okay, so litzo is face then.
Litzo could be lips. I could see lips and mouth being two different things, but litzo could be face.
Okay.
What have you got?
Rabbit.
Oh, is that like run or like bolt?
Rabbit means mine.
Oh, okay.
Or like my turn. It was my rabbit to play the Starry Stereo. So turn, I guess.
Right. What about bog?
Oh, that's God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figure I don't know why I didn't have that one in the last episode. So I have Litzo, and I think like he was a bulshy, great burly bastard with a very red Litzo. So that wouldn't be very red lips. That would be face. So Litzo is definitely face.
Yeah. Do you have another one?
Yeah, was that all you have?
No, I got more.
Oh, go ahead. No, we're taking turns, right?
Golos.
Golos. Oh, Galos.
Galos. I don't have a pronunciation guide.
Yeah, what was that? I was trying to figure that one out.
Voice.
Right. Well, that makes total sense. I got Domi. Domi is a house, I believe.
Oh, that would make sense. Like a domicile, domestic place.
Yeah.
Goveretting.
Govereating or yeah.
Oh, maybe it's govereating. I might have spelt it wrong.
Yeah. What is that, Todd?
It's something you do with your galos. It's speaking.
Oh, okay. So if you have a very nice galos, you have a very nice voice. If you're govereating, you're speaking.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He was govereating in a horror show galos.
Gotcha. He was speaking with a good voice. Ah.
Yes.
Okay. I've got Staja, Staja.
Oh, yeah, that's the state jail.
Yeah, I just said jail, but yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I think he literally
state
translated that
jail.
one when he first mentions the Staja. He put in brackets state jail. It's like the only time he's ever defined a word in the entire book. It's like, just in case you don't know this one. Almost like maybe he only learned that one when he got to the jail. And because it's not in common use, he's like, letting us in on it.
Right.
How about tall-chalked or tall-choked? Tall-choked?
Hit.
Yes.
Yeah. Grudy's.
I don't know that one.
I don't know if we did this one last time, but I'm pretty sure Grudy's is breasts.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we did. You did whatever the hands were, and you first thought that they
rookers. Yeah.
Rookers were breasts, yeah. This is one that really only came up in part 2. Cine.
Oh, okay. What's that?
It's the film. It's film.
Oh, right. He vidied this.
When he went to...
Yeah.
He vidied the cine.
Vidied the
which
cine.
I suspect, it's not spelled the same way, but I suspect it's like a knockoff of cinema.
Right.
Or like a, an adaptation of that.
Okay. Yazik.
Don't remember that one.
Pretty sure it's tongue.
Okay.
He stuck his Yazik out 1.5 miles to lick his grons.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 I have are ones that I meant to do last week and didn't.
Okay.
The first is platies.
Pants.
I thought they were pants originally. I've come to think that it's a general term for clothes, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense. Pants are clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All pants are clothes, but not all clothes are pants.
Unless you wear overalls.
No, that's not. Do you have another one? Or?
No. You got one more, I think, right?
I do. It's maybe my favorite one so far. Yarbles.
Yarbles. What's that? Throwing up?
That's testicles.
Oh, testicle. Oh, right. Cut off his yarbles.
Kicked him in the yarbles. Punched him in the yarbles. I
went straight for the cutoff one. I went to the real bad one.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, kicked him in. I'm like, yeah, cut him off. Yeah.
What's interesting about that one is it is used in multiple ways. Like it is used to describe the actual physical balls, as in like I'm going to kick you in the balls. But then also in that figurative term, like you don't have the balls to attack me, because I think it came up in the fight with Billy Boy.
Right. And yarble cancer.
Yarble cancer. Did that come up?
No, it did.
Okay. No. Man. You can see the doctor doing that.
Oh, I do have another one. Cancer.
Cancer. Right. It's a cigarette.
It's a cigarette. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were asking the reverse. Like, what is the NADSAT for cancer?
No. What's cancer in Spanish? El cancer.
I would say it'd be like the toomy woomy.
Toomy woomy.
Yeah, you got the old toomy woomies in your Gulliver. Like tumor.
Right.
That's what I was going for.
Okay.
Toomy woomy. Toomy woomy in the Gulliver.
Toomy yumi in the yarbles.
Toomy yumi in the yarbles. I was definitely not horror show about that.
Oh, brothers. Okay.
Oh, brothers. Let's begin. Once again, we open in a chapter with, what's it going to be then? Spoiler alert, every first chapter in a part is going to open this way. In this case, it's Alex being asked that question by, is it the chaplain?
Yeah, I think that's the first one. He's kind of found God, I think.
Kind of. Yeah, it's the chaplain is giving this this sermon about like what is their future going to be like now that they're inmates. Mm-hmm. We find out pretty quickly that Alex has been in jail for 2 years of a 14-year sentence. And at this point, he's hearing this sermon about like, are you guys going to continue this life of crime? Are you guys going to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go out and be better people. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What are you guys going to do with your lives? And yeah, Alex has kind of found religion in the sense that he really likes reading like the gory, violent parts of the Bible. So he's very clearly an Old Testament guy.
Right.
We also find out that Alex has learned that Georgie was killed about a year before during a break-in that he was doing with Pete and Dim. Something went wrong when they were escaping. Georgie tripped, and the guy they were assaulting basically beat him until he was dead.
And Alex,
which, of course,
Alex was not all broken up about that one.
No, Alex was not all broken up about it. I feel like it's like one name off his list of people he wants to deal with once he gets out of prison. So in a way, that's gone well for him. So at the end of the sermon, as the other prisoners are leaving, Alex is helping out a little bit. He sort of volunteers in the chapel with the chaplain. And he mentions to the chaplain that he's heard about this thing called, I don't know if he knew the name of it.
I don't think he did. He just like, this thing.
This thing.
And then they let you out.
You can go, you go through this process and then you're fixed. You can never, you'll never commit crime again. And he wants to find out more about that. And the chaplain, says it's called the Ludovico Technique. And he's opposed to it because the chaplain has some ethical concerns about the process, which I think will come up in more detail later. Nonetheless, Alex asks him to put in a good word and see if he can get him into the program. At which point, Alex is brought back to his cell, to what he calls his new droogs, which are basically his bunkmates. Mm-hmm. And I took a note of this thing. Yeah, this is one of his existing bunkmates. He goes in, he introduces all of the different bunkmates, and one of his bunkmates started talking about something, and he said this line, and at that time, you couldn't get hold of a poggy, and then in parentheses, Alex adds whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that made me laugh so much, because it's like, he's like rolling his eyes at this guy who's using slang that he doesn't know about. And this entire book has been that exact thing.
Exactly.
It was so incongruous. It was so weird. I had to take note of it.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that was hilarious. After everything that was thrown at us in this book, right. From Alex, the humble narrator, and he's like, whatever the fuck that is.
Whatever that means. Listen to this lunatic. We find out the condition of the prison system is pretty bad. Basically, they're in cells that were meant to hold 3 people that are now housing 6. And now they've added a 7th person to the cell who doesn't want to be there. Nobody else wants him there. Mm-hmm. They basically want him to sleep on the floor. He doesn't want to sleep on the floor, which kind of adds to the dramatic tension in Chapter 2. Chapter 2, everyone is sleeping, and the new guy crawls into bed with Alex, and I'm not sure if I read this correctly.
I think he started masturbating.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that was so buried in the NADSAT language that I was like, I think that's what he says, but I'm not sure that's what he says. But yeah, he seems to crawl into bed and starts masturbating, which I don't know. I feel like what we've known about Alex so far, his response is essentially what we'd expect. He beats the guy up, and then he clocks him in the rot. The rest of the cell get up and they start kicking the shit out of the guy, and then the guards come and they break it up. Then when the guards leave,
they start all over again.
They just do it again, but quieter, which seems to be again kind of a testament to the state of the prison system. At the end of everyone taking a turn, the guy's kind of on the floor. He's kind of done, and then Alex does one last kick into the guy's head, calls it a night. So the next morning, Alex wakes up, and the guy's still lying on the floor, not really moving, not really breathing.
And he chuckles. First he chuckles. He sees him, and he's like, "Ha ha."
Yeah.
He vex or whatever. Smex.
Smex.
Yeah, Smex. Yeah, and then finds out the guy is dead.
Well, not just that, but like everybody else in the cell is going to throw Alex under the bus as being responsible for this, right?
Big time.
Because Alex is trying to be like,
that was you, man. And they're like, you were all a part of it. And they're like, yeah, but you hit him last.
Yeah, but he's like, you hit him the most, and everybody's like, yeah, don't matter. So yeah, they're all united in throwing Alex under the bus. And I think so. At the end of this chapter, that's when there's like tension throughout the prison after this happened, and then there's like a sense of almost elation through the prison as this like higher up prison authority comes and sort of does the tour of the prison, and then stops at Alex's cell and sort of looks in on Alex. And I think he asks him a couple of questions or makes a couple of comments. And you basically get the sense that this is the guy in charge of, or at least involved with, the Ludovico Technique. And he's deciding now to take Alex. Like, Alex has really shown himself to be kind of an unredeemable, unrepentant criminal that maybe can only be helped in this way. Mm-hmm. Which Alex is very happy about.
Yeah, because he thinks it's his get out of jail free card, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got 12 more years of a sentence in front of him, and with this, he's basically got the promise of being released in a fortnight, which I actually don't know what a fortnight is. I should have looked it up.
Is it a week? 2 weeks?
I feel like it's 2 weeks.
Days.
I feel like it's 2 weeks.
I mean, we play Fortnite all the time.
I was going to say, we play Fortnite, and yet that game does not tell us anything about how long a fortnight is.
No, it doesn't. Fortnite, would that be like 14 nights? Fortnite?
That could be, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking this up now.
All right.
A fortnight is a unit of time equal to 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
The word derives from an Old English term, Bowertine night, meaning 14 nights. Hey!
14 nights.
Yeah. Look at me go.
Well, so, like, we could just adapt that to, like, everything, right? We could have a 3rd night. We could have a 12 night. 11 night.
Yeah.
10 night. 9 night.
A 2 night.
2 night. 27 night.
Exactly.
So, chapter 3. Alex happily signs himself over into the program to receive the Ludovico Technique. Afterwards, he finds out that the chaplain wants to talk to him, so he heads down to see the chaplain. And we get this interesting scene where the chaplain wants to make really clear to Alex that he was not in any way responsible for Alex being used in this program. And he's clearly a very troubled man. He gets weepy at one point.
He's an alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic. Which has been mentioned that, like, he's got scotch on his breath every time he shows up. He pours scotch into a greasy, grimy glass and has a drink here. But, I don't remember how much it comes up in this chapter, but kind of the central question of the book and the central question surrounding the Ludovico Technique is, does a man who has no ability to choose to do good, does he actually do good?
Right.
Is it better to retain choice and do evil than to remove choice and be forced to do good? And that's kind of the issue that the chaplain is all wrapped up in, and how, why he does not want to see Alex go through this. Wants to make sure that Alex doesn't think he had any responsibility, and I think says, when you look back on this and what happened, like, don't blame me for it. Or something like
and
that.
I think he wanted to wipe his hands of it too, because he felt like this procedure was going against the will of God, and he felt like if he had any part of that, he would be going against his religion, right?
Yeah. And it's not just against the will of God; it's that whole central choice, or the central issue in Christianity about you must choose good or evil, and God has given you choice.
Yeah, I think he does mention, I don't have that part written down, but I think he says something about choices given by God and therefore is divine or something like that. Yeah. And then, but as he's saying all this to Alex, he says, "Do I make myself clear? He didn't, brothers, but I nodded that he did."
Well, I guess the nuances of ethics might be a little over Alex's head at this point.
Yeah, and the whole time, like, even when it comes up to starting this whole thing, he's still laughing inside, thinking about all the bad things he's going to do when he leaves, and
how
he's pulled the wool over their eyes, and
he's going to fake his way through whatever this program is, and just be back out on the streets in no time, killing and raping and having a good old time.
Spoiler alert: he is not.
So he's brought out to a different area of the prison, a different building, and at first, it seems like he's going to have a pretty swish time of it. He's got his own room. He's got nice, comfy jammies. He's got, like, what I think were slippers.
Yep.
He gets a really nice lunch. And then a nurse comes in to offer him, quote unquote, a vitamin injection.
And he's like, oh, well, these vitamins are going to make me right as rain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worth noting, I guess, that it's not, the nurse doesn't say that it's vitamins. It's Alex who comes to the assumption that it must be vitamins because he's undernourished from being in the prison, and they need to get him, fixed up. In fact, it's not a vitamin injection, as we will find out later.
Dun, dun,
and then,
dun.
Yeah. And then someone shows up in a wheelchair to take him in to the next room.
Well, they weren't in the wheelchair. They showed up with a wheelchair.
Well, I'm sorry. Was that not clear? This guy just comes rolling in a wheelchair.
Rolls in a wheelchair to get Alex. Come on, come with me.
Come with me. I'm Professor X.
I went through the exact same thing that you're going to go through, and I feel fine.
Sorry. I apologize if that wasn't clear. Guy shows up pushing a wheelchair for Alex to take. And Alex is like, well, I can walk. It's fine. But he gets up and he's a little bit weak. And so the guy's like, no, we better do it this way.
And Alex is like, well, I must be weak because I haven't been eating well.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he has a lot of, like, mis-explanations about what's going on to him through this process. But we'll get to that. Next chapter, we see him brought into the next room, which is basically a theater. Got a big theater screen at the end.
Oh, was it a cine?
And it's a cine, yeah.
Cine.
And so he gets put into this chair where he gets strapped down, can't move. His head is strapped in, so he can't move his head. And his eyes are essentially held open. Which he thinks, I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, I want to watch this film. I want to go through this process. I want to be healed so I can get out of here.
And the doctor's like, no, trust us. This is for the best.
Yeah, this is for the best. We know what we're doing. We've been through this rodeo a few times. And so the films start, and they're all these kind of horrifyingly brutal films. And actually made a list of the films that he's shown. The first one, it's a group of like thugs beating someone up. The next one, it's a gang rape. Third one, it's like somebody's face being cut up and their eye being gouged out and their teeth being pulled out. I found myself wondering too, like in this is obviously an imagined future from 1962. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we assume that it's like 1972 or 1982, but I'm wondering like how. I mean, I know they took in a future chapter they have like Nazi propaganda films that they're using that obviously they would have acquired those from the Nazis, but are these? I just found myself wondering how these films in the universe would have been made,
right?
And whether they're fiction, I guess. I mean, the next one is an old woman who's being kicked around in her shop by a gang before they light her on fire and walk away.
Well, and Alex keeps saying, well, this must be fake. This must be fake. But he's been wrong about pretty much every other step of this process up to this point.
Yeah. And then the last film is Japanese soldiers torturing captured soldiers.
Yeah.
People who've been nailed to trees, they light fires underneath them. They cut off their yarbles and also their heads. And again, that one feels like it's something that would have come from, film shot during World War II, more propaganda.
Right.
And maybe that's all of these films, because I just feel like, especially in 1962, the idea of having the effects necessary to like make realistic depictions of this kind of violence didn't really exist, but I could be wrong. Anyway, as Alex watches these films,
so
of which should appeal to him.
Hold on. What did you think? Did you think the films were real, or did you think they were made up?
I think they're real.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah. But yeah, that and that's why it led me to question like where their source would have been. Mm-hmm. Are these, are these snuff films that they found, or
is the government making these just for this?
Exactly. Yeah. Is that how far they're willing to go for this experiment, that we need to have this footage, let's go ahead and make it. So I did wonder about that. And as Alex watches these, and all these films are things that he should be enjoying, unfortunately he can't, because he begins to feel incredibly nauseous. And it gets worse and worse as he watches these films.
He gets an awful pain in his Gulliver.
Yeah. Begs for it to be over. And the end of that chapter, I think, is pretty chilling. Because he's like, please, please, please stop. Mm-hmm. And one of the doctors basically says, stop. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
And so he's in for a good number of hours of this. But that brings this chapter to a close on that kind of somewhat chilling moment. I mean, you have to remember that about this character, he's not exactly someone we should be feeling sympathy for. Though that is, I think, part of the complicated nature of a book like this is that by design, as Alex loses his ability to choose what he's doing, you almost have to have some sympathy for what he's going through, or maybe empathy. I don't know. Next chapter, we're right back with Alex watching more films, or I guess Alex says that he continued to watch films that day, the likes of which he can't describe, so he doesn't. And he's wheeled back into his room, where he kind of starts to feel better immediately. In fact, not long after, a doctor comes in to see him and tells him he's doing very well.
They gave him some food, and he's actually feeling hungry.
Yeah. I think Alex said something like, you got to stop this. Like, it's making me so ill. And the guy's like, well, I mean, do you feel ill now? And when Alex thought about it, he's like, well, no, I feel perfectly fine now. And he makes these, excuses like, yeah, it was from the really rich food after being in prison, or, my body getting used to the vitamins again. And he's so ignorant to what is happening to him. It's a bit, I mean, I guess it's fair. I mean, he's 15 years old, doesn't have a lot of experience.
Well, 17 at this point.
I guess he would be. That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. While he's in the room, someone comes in to sort of follow up with him just about the whole process. And it's like, so we got to find out where you're going to live when you get out of here. And Alex basically says he's going to go stay with his parents, who apparently don't know he's going through this process and don't know he'll be out in a fortnight. But Alex is fine with that. He thinks it'll be fun to surprise them. And then he asks, what Alex is going to do for work. Alex kind of like hums and haws. He doesn't want to really find a job right away. And then as the guy is finishing up, he asks Alex if he wants to take a swing at him.
Right.
And Alex is like, what? The guy's like, yeah, come on, just take a swing. I know you want to. Come on, take a pop at me.
So he does. And so Alex swings.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Alex swings, the guy dodges, but Alex gets this little feeling of sickness when he does it. When he starts thinking about, like, what's going to be the aftermath after he hits this guy, he thinks about the blood, and he starts to get a little sick, and he's like, oh, that was weird. And the guy just kind of laughs on his way out of there, the doctor. Mm-hmm. And yeah, kind of get a feeling for what's starting to happen to him.
Yep. And then following that, Alex goes to bed and has a dream where he's out, doing his regular criminal activities, wakes up from it, and finds himself again kind of ill just from the bad dream. And he gets kind of, he doesn't want to go back to sleep at that point, because it's like, man, he, has this dream, should be a good one, wakes up kind of wanting to be sick. That's not a good night. So he tries to stay awake, ends up falling asleep, but, at the end of the chapter, he says he didn't dream again, so. Okay, I think we're on chapter 6 now. Alex is continuing with the treatment. I think at this point he's getting treated multiple times a day. This is the point where they use the Nazi propaganda on him. And something that's different about the Nazi propaganda is it features a soundtrack of Beethoven music.
Right. And this
which
is where he
really
gets really
sets him off.
He gets really mad about that. He's, you animals, you whatever. I can't remember what the word. It was one of those made up words, but I got to find that because that was a good word.
And so, yeah, he's quite annoyed because it seems like he's now going to have those violent reactions to music, and it's all so unfair. The doctors don't seem to have a lot of sympathy. They just sort of they shrug their shoulders, and it's like, yeah, the music makes it easier for you to absorb the lesson. So, I mean, it's all part of science.
Yeah.
This is also the point where Alex basically learns what's happening to him. They ask him how he thinks, the nausea is hitting him, and he thinks it's all of the wires and things that they've attached to his body and his head. And they sort of have a good little, is it smack? A little smack at that?
Yeah.
Because all of those things are just what's recording his reactions, and it's the vitamins, which are not vitamins, that are making him ill.
I found the word.
Okay.
He calls them brachnees.
Brachnees. I think that's one that's come up before, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So later, after he's brought back to his room and then is going to be brought out for another round of testing, the nurse comes in to try to give him an injection. Instead of just taking it, he basically, gives her a whack in the hand. She drops the needle. He's like, haha, you can't take me that easily. Except she kind of can, because she comes back a minute later with like 4 big beefy guards who are going to hold him down while she jams another needle into his arm. And back to getting more cines.
And to ruin more music for him.
The guy shows up, no wheelchair.
Right, no vitamin this time either.
And Alex is like, well, where's the injection? He's like, no, we're not doing that either. You can walk with me to the theater, or we're still going to strap you in, but you can walk there. So they walk down there, they strap him in, they start the films, and what do you know? He starts feeling ill all by himself. So the conditioning process is now basically over. His body has been taught to associate feeling ill with violence
and crime,
and antisocial behavior, crime. Yeah. The Ludovico technique has worked, and Alex is no longer capable of violent acts, supposedly. We'll find out for sure next chapter. After he's brought back to his cell, or his room, which he discovers kind of in this chapter, he looks around it kind of for the first time, realizing that there's bars on the window and there's no way out. He decides he's going to try to escape. So he pounds on the door, pretends to be sick.
He's like, I've got appendicitis. I'm going to die. You got to help me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guards come in, they grab him, and he's like, I'm going to fight my way out of here. Yeah. And he goes to hit the guard, and sure as shit, he can't do it. He gets sick right away. And the guard's like, come on, hit me. I want you to. Hit me. And he just can't do it. Which is a very different Alex from the Alex that we met in the first part of this book.
Very, yeah. And in fact, after the guard gives him a punch to the face and leaves, laughing, I think, Alex finishes up the chapter saying that, like, he'd almost reached a point where it felt like being hit was better than hitting, to the point that he almost wanted to offer a different cheek after that first blow.
Yeah.
Definitely a callback to a book that I don't think Alex has ever read, but definitely a reference to turning the other cheek in the Bible. Chapter 7. It is now Alex's last day. He starts his day with his clothes, and I forget the word. I should have written it down, but there's something that he had with him all through the beginning, which I think was like his
knife, right?
See, here's the thing: is I'm thinking of the movie where he had a walking stick that also had a knife that pulled out of it.
Right.
And I don't know if that was something that was invented just for the film, But that's what I'm picturing in this book every time he says that word. So
okay.
It's basically whatever his weapon was. It definitely had a blade at some point because he stabbed Dim in the hand and sliced up Georgie. But he's quite surprised to see the weapon, particularly because, like, you know, he's
still in prison.
He's still in prison,
and they just
he's a known criminal.
A weapon. Yeah.
He's looking forward to going out and having some lovely
having a horror show,
dripping off. Yeah. Another word that hasn't come up yet, but
what's that?
Corvy.
Or Crovy, or
Crovy. It's Crovy.
Crovy, yeah, that's blood. Yeah, that one's been. I don't know why we didn't bring that one up.
I don't know.
Okay.
It just makes me think of gravy whenever I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
So he's brought back into. He's either brought back into the theater or a different room. I couldn't really tell. But instead of going to watch a movie, there's now like a stage. There's a bunch of people in the audience.
Some people that he knows. Some people that he
knows. The prison warden, the higher ups who brought him over here. And he's basically there to demonstrate the effects of the Ludovico Technique to the people in the auditorium and prove to them that it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, first thing he encounters is a guy that comes up and sort of starts
hitting
his nose, stomping on his foot, and insulting him, and
I think hitting his ears and stuff, and
just trying to start some kind of fisticuffs.
And what does Alex say? He's like, "Please let me. Is there anything I can do for you?"
That's the first thing. Well, first of all, he wants to respond, right?
Right.
And he can't, because of course he's immediately violently ill. So his next response is like, "Please let me do something for you." He starts madly searching his pockets for money or something he can give the guy.
So he gives him his weapon.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "What am I going to do with this? I don't want that." Throws it away.
And eventually, he's like, "Well, let me clean your boots for you. Let me clean your boots for you." And he gets down on his hands and knees.
And actually starts licking the guy's fucking boots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the guy gives him a kick in the head. And then one of the doctors is like, "That's enough."
Well, no, I think Alex does take him down. I think he does grab his ankles and drop him.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he does.
But
he's down there.
He feels so bad after doing he feels so sick after doing that. He actually gets up and gives the guy his hand to help him up.
Right. Then that guy hits him again or something, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then, there's nothing he can do. He still wants to do something for the guy. That's all he can think of to do to make it stop. He wants it to stop, but he can't fight his way out because he'll just get violently ill. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then the doctor says that's enough, and then the guy does a little bow, wanders off stage. They talk a little bit about the process and how it's working and everything else. Then Alex is given a second temptation, which is a beautiful woman wanders on stage. And I thought this was interesting because in my mind, Alex would have been conditioned just about raping someone.
Right.
And maybe it's the context of it in what he thought about, because as soon as he sees her, basically what he narrates is that he thought about basically banging her right there on the stage in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what triggers his initial, again, violent, sick reaction. And I don't know, though, that's is that necessarily rape, or has he been conditioned against sex in general at this point?
I think his original thought was I want to take her here now, violent, like he wanted on the floor, immediate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that could have played a part in it. Maybe the audience, kind of like the gang rapes that he was watching in the videos, that he was being accustomed to feeling sick at. Yeah, I don't know if it was, maybe it'll come up later in the book. Maybe even regular sex will be a no-go for him.
And again, as soon as he thinks about that, again, it's the nausea, it's the pain in his head. So he starts sort of, begging the woman, pledging to be her knight.
To protect her from all the evils of the world. And
throw his coat down on the ground so that she wouldn't get dirty. And so the audience is very impressed by all this. There's some, likely some sustained golf claps going on. But the prison chaplain is in the audience. And he's about the only one to speak up again about the ethics of this and about what this process means for Alex's free will. Is it truly goodness if he has no choice but to be good? The rest of the auditorium doesn't really seem to care.
They're all pretty pleased, I think.
They are, yeah. It's like, you know what? We don't really care. Science isn't worried about the ethics of making this guy not a criminal. They're just worried about whether we can do it. And we did. So, yay. And so, I think the last line of the book is the chaplain saying, or not the last line of this part is the chaplain saying, basically, yeah, it works. God help us all. And that's the end of part 2. I don't know if I'm quite at sympathy or empathy for Alex yet. There was a question that came up, I think in response to the chaplain's concern, which I think is an interesting one about choice. Alex chose to go through the process. Is that not him enacting free choice and having to live with the consequences of that choice?
Right. Even though the consequences weren't anything he thought was going to happen. But a lot of times in life, that's how it is, right?
Exactly. A lot of times you'll make a choice and you won't have...
You won't know what the consequences of that choice are exactly going to be. You might know that there are going to be consequences, but you still made that choice and you still suffer the consequences, right? So he did choose to do this because he did have to sign, even though he expressed an interest in it, and it was kind of like they were like, no, this is still experimental. We're not going to do this for you. And then when they expressed an interest in him, he still had to sign a paper saying, like, I understand what I'm about to do.
Yeah, and a part of me thinks that, like, the fact that Burgess chose to actually spend some time actually writing about that process of signing it and the actual, like, the actualization of this choice was so that he could make this callback to that moment at this point in the chapter to say, like, he did, like, this was an active choice. How can you criticize his lack of choice when it was the presence of choice that brought him here in the first place?
Right. And it was the choice. It was choice that brought him to the jail too, in the first place.
Arguably, like everything that's happened has been like the choices that he makes.
Yeah. Another thing I found interesting was the doctor. He explained it. It wasn't that Alex all of a sudden had this urge to do good. He still had the urge to do bad, but the urge to do bad made him feel ill, so he had to do the opposite to counteract the illness. So his goodness still came from a place of pretty much pure evil.
Yeah, but what's interesting too, I think, in the book over the movie, and this is just because of the formats, is that in the book it's much more clear that it's not just that he's changing his actions. Because he's narrating, he's explaining that he's having to change even what he's imagining or thinking about.
Right. Yeah, because it's really, and that's what makes him sick. It's not the, because he doesn't get a chance to finish the act and to see the aftermath of it when he wants to hit somebody. But he thinks about hitting them, he imagines the blood, and then that's what makes him sick. Or he sees the beautiful woman and he imagines the act, and that's what makes him sick, right? Mm-hmm. So he actually has to, he's battling within himself before any action comes out, right?
Yeah. Something else I was really thinking about here too, and I mean, it's not time to talk about the movie yet, but at this point, I feel like this is one of maybe the most, like, I think the film is one of those movies that maybe follows the book as closely as just about any other film has. Like, there are scenes in this book that, as I'm reading them, like the scene we were just talking about where he goes in to sort of show whether or not the technique has worked, where like there was just descriptions of like these two spotlights coming up on the stage. But like I'm reading that and I can see that scene happening in the movie. Like it feels like a very, very, except for maybe very small changes, like it was really, really a close adaptation. But it's been a while since I saw it too.
It'll be interesting when we do cover the movie to really see the similarities.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's pretty much been spot on up to this point, as far as my memory serves.
Well, and I think at least from part one, maybe not part two, but in part one, every line of dialogue that exists in the film, maybe not every, most, are lifted from the book. I'm pretty sure all of Malcolm McDowell's voiceover is taken from the first person narrative of the book.
Right.
I think I actually went back and revisited the scene of him in the record store this week after we talked about it on the podcast last week about whether it was changed or like how old the women were. And I think some of his dialogue with them is a little bit different, but there's some stuff that's the same as well. Yeah. So here we are at the end of part two. Alex has been turned into a good person, an upstanding citizen, and someone who I'm sure will have no trouble coming out of prison and readapting to life in regular society. That's my prediction.
That's your.
That's my prediction.
Okay.
I'm sure the last third of the book is just going to be finding out how great Alex's life is after receiving this technique.
I think you're right.
We'll find out.
Right. I think I think that this is a glowing success, and there's going to be no consequences whatsoever. It's just going to be smooth sailing. He's going to spend the rest of his life working and happy, and yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I think what's he going to do as a living? He can't. I would have predicted going into music, but he's not going to be able to do that now. Maybe a tailor.
Oh, because he likes fashion.
He does like fashion. That's almost like his second love. Sorry, wait. It would be music, violence, and rape, then fashion.
Then fashion. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the first two are off the table now. So I can see him going into fashion.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this part of the book?
Give me a second. I'll let you do yours first.
I'm still enjoying the book very much. It's as it goes on. I think I said this last time too. It becomes gradually less of a struggle to understand the language because you begin to learn the words. But early on, it was definitely a more of an issue. And it's again continuing to be interesting to see how closely the movie stayed to the book, and that does make me look forward to watching the film again to have a better access to seeing how close it was and where it might have deviated. And it is interesting to see how even at this point, I think we are starting to feel something for the situation that Alex has put himself in. And I think a lot of that comes from the first person narrative. I think when you are inside someone's head narratively, it's easier for you to sympathize or empathize with what they're going through because it's almost like you're putting yourself into that position.
Okay.
And I think it's always interesting when someone can take a character that, you know, should generally be considered, you know, unsympathetic or unempathetic and make them the opposite.
I wouldn't say he's the opposite yet.
No, I wouldn't say so either, but I'm already feeling it a little bit, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, like being strapped to a chair and forced to watch something and, feel. I think he explained it as he would rather die than feeling what he was feeling. So
yeah,
I mean that's some pretty intense imagery and feelings, and it is like you say, it is hard not to feel some sort of empathy towards that, right?
I think there's, to an extent, too, going right back to the beginning of part 2,
mm-hmm.
There's the fact that, was he capable of knowing what he was consenting to when he agreed to do this? Like, he didn't have a lawyer there explaining what the Ludovico process was, what he was going to be subjected to. His parent or guardian wasn't there to help him through the process. He was just like a 17-year-old kid,
right?
Who was basically told, "Hey, man, if you do this, you're out of here in 2 weeks." And he's like, "Fuck yeah."
Yeah.
But did not receive anywhere near the full understanding of what that process is going to be like. And now, at least from what we see at this moment, he's going to be living with that choice for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I didn't really even think about that, about him just being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
With no... Yeah, because they even talk about his parents. Like, they're like, well, where are you going to live? He's like, oh, I'll be with my mom and dad. And I guess he hadn't seen them in a month up to that point. They had stopped any visitations. Somebody did something.
They smuggled cocaine, I think, or no. He lied about somebody smuggling cocaine.
Oh, okay.
But there was something else being smuggled in that caused they ended all visitations for a while.
Yeah, it'll be interesting I'm looking forward to the last part of the book. I honestly don't really remember the last part of the movie, I have to say. I remember...
Oh, really?
I remembered the strapping to the chair and watching the videos. Yeah. I remember him feeling sick when doing things. The only thing I kind of think I remember from the third part, and I was quite young, I think, when I watched this, but his disdain for music, or his inability to enjoy music. So, but other than that, I can't really remember how the movie ends.
I remember the ending very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really remember the ending. So,
but spoiler alert, this book has a very different ending
than the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sticks really true for most of it, and then does a hard right.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Okay.
But we will talk about that next week when we actually get to that chapter.
Absolutely.
The infamous 21st chapter. All right. That brings this episode to an end. Thanks for listening. Once again, thank you to Frankie for being our first patron on Patreon. We appreciate your support. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/blah blah blah media. Don't let Frankie be the only one. Come show us some love. And if you want to just support us, just on a one-time basis, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/blah blah blah. I said last week that it was buymeacoffee.com/blah blah blah media, but it's not. I lied last week. It's buymeacoffee.com/blah blah blah. I really should try to get these things consistent so it's easier to remember them.
It'll be something different next week. It'll be something different next week.
It'll be something different, exactly. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's facebook.com. I'm so confused. It's facebook.com/ when bad things happen to good people. No, it's not. Jesus Christ. Oh, I've got too many names of things to remember, dude. I need to write a script or something.
Just go on Facebook and search when bad things happen to good people.
We're on Facebook, facebook.com/bandthingshappen.
Oh,
you can also email us at bandthingshappen@gmail.com. We have a website, I think I mentioned earlier, blah, 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 media.com. You can find out all sorts of stuff there. Might be easier just to go there and follow the links to our socials at the bottom of the page instead of remembering all this crap I'm saying right now. Anything else you want to say?
No, looking forward to the last part of this book. Definitely, like you said, finding the language a lot easier now. And yeah, looking forward to the next episode.
Cool. Great. All right. I have been Todd Sullivan.
And I've been Oren Barter.
Go read a fucking book.